Mr. Prasad Kumar and Cristina Cruz, a practitioner and a researcher and prolific author and academic, respectively. You can put it on full screen now, Joe.
43 participants. Nice.
Harsh, can we just, Joe, can we mute everyone? Joe, you need to put it on full screen share. Yeah. So the topic for the day is resilience among family firms. And just to take you through what is SPGC, what is STEP, next slide. STEP stands for Successful Transgenerational Entrepreneurship Practices. And it is an initiative launched to explore entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial practices within family businesses. So here we have, I think at last count, how many were it? What was the number, Arpita? About 40 plus?
Yes, yeah.
40 plus schools across the world and business families who are engaged in research, teaching, and practice-oriented activities to generate solutions that have immediate application for family leaders. So STEP and SPGC is proud for the kind of research that it does, for the best practice solutions that it offers to family businesses across the world, and to try and perpetuate the legacy across generations. So today we are looking at the third edition of the STEP Conversation Series. Our first two series, Joe, if you can just change the slide. The first set of conversations that we had were with Alfredo Massis and Mr. Harsh Mariwala, again, a practitioner and an academic. And the topic was responsible innovation among family businesses. The second series, which we had in February of this year, was with Sarah Jack, Tanja Leppäaho, and Andrea Calabrò. And this, the topic of this conversation was internationalization of family firms. Today's topic is resilience among family firms. And we have Mr. Prasad Kumar, who is our speaker for the day. If I'm looking at family firm resilience among, if I'm looking at family firm resilience, and we're talking about resilience in an age of turbulence and uncertainty, then why do we need to talk about it? After all, we are STEP. And what does STEP do? STEP looks at perpetuating legacy. It talks about transgenerational entrepreneurship. So how do we ensure that family firms sustain across generations in an era which is characterized by uncertainty and turbulence? How does resilience play an important role there? And again, on a lighter note, what happens in Vegas doesn't remain in Vegas. So what happens in each of the three subsystems in a family business, namely family, ownership, and business, does not stay in any one of these subsystems. It percolates down to each of the other subsystems. And that is where we want to understand when we are talking about resilience. Are we talking about resilience in the family? Are we talking about resilience in the business? Or are we talking about resilience as far as ownership or even the family business is concerned? So without much ado, let me just very briefly introduce the speakers to you for the day. Mr. Prasad Kumar is a practitioner. He has been associated with some of the big family business groups like the GMR Group. He has been the chairman of RAXA, Homeland Security. He's also the founder of Human Endeavor Associates, which is a niche consultancy firm specializing in strategic advisory for owner and partner-led companies, family businesses, and corporates. He is also the founder of Parampara Family Business Institute and was also the vice chairman and managing director of this institute. Post-retirement, he is now acting as an advisor and academic council member of this particular institute. As far as Christina is concerned, Christina is a full professor of entrepreneurship and family business at IE University and is the director of the IE Center for Families in Business. I think the families in business is something which is very close to her heart. She is also serving as an associate editor of Family Business Review, which is the leading academic journal on family firm research. Her research is published in all the leading journals. I don't need to read you and go through all of these. She's been awarded the Fellow of the Family Firm Institute and included in the 40 Best Business School Professors under 40 by Poets and Quants in 2014. But more importantly, I think Christina has also brought to family firm literature the term socio-emotional wealth, or at least kind of made it far more recognizable than what it was earlier. So welcome both of you. It's actually a pleasure and privilege to have you here on this platform.
This is in text.
Can we just move on?
Thank
So,
you.
start with the first set of questions. Mr. Kumar, we will need to mute everyone, Joe. Yeah. So, Mr. Kumar, what has been your experience about family versus non-family firms and how they respond to adverse environments? Do you consider both family and non-family business firms to be equally resilient?
So thank you, Tulsi. Pleasure and privilege to be contributing to the session. Very quickly, as a practitioner, I just need to take a minute. Most of my advisory practice lasts over several years, sometimes 2 decades, with different families. It's not a transactional kind of engagement with families. Over the period, I have veered towards culture before structure kind of approach. So some of what I say will indicate that preference in terms of associating with family businesses for whom I've become a family coach and so on and so forth. Just a quick overview. Now to come to your question, to say it's very difficult to generalize a broadband. So I was saying it's still difficult to generalize across. I've consulted both with family and non-family. But overall, I'd say family firms manage resilience better than non-family firms. This is a point of view. I don't have any academic research to support it because I'm a boiler suit practitioner. But let me try and, taking a balcony view and looking at what I see, I think managing adversity requires concentrated ownership. And concentrated ownership enables quick decisions and agility. You need to be quick to respond to that. Second, family businesses have skin in the game. 3, they have an entrepreneurial orientation, which helps them deal with situations in a very creative manner. They have strong blood relationships, which create the speed of trust and unconditional support. And most importantly, whenever I've engaged with family business in the center of a crisis, these blood relationships, one for all for one feeling, is very crucial. The next point very quickly is that family firms are keen to hand over a stable business to the next generation and protect the next generation. And finally, family firms, in my experience, put reputation ahead of wealth, particularly when they're in the center of a crisis. Non-family firms, I worked with several. They're large, matrixed, some multinational, some Indian. The very nature of their structure, the process, the matrix, all of it makes it slower to respond. You need socialization of several constituencies. Second, distributed ownership also suggests that all stakeholders need to be on board, and all this takes time. If they are listed, then short-term responses to the capital market, what we call quarter by quarter responses. Also, I think individuals in non-family businesses are more distant, they're individualistic, and they have a professional contract rather than what I call a psychological contract for the well-being of the firm. So for these reasons, very quickly put, I veer towards believing that family firms manage resilience better than non-family firms.
You're mute.
Decided to put myself also in mute, Christina. Okay, no worries. So a very interesting observation about reputational coming ahead of wealth. Christina, would you agree with that? Among family firms, reputation coming ahead of wealth, especially during a crisis. What do you think family firm resilience refers to? The context of the family business, what is resilience really? Does it refer to resilience within the firm or the family? What do you think it means?
Okay, so thank you very much for the question and for inviting me to this talk. So I was reflecting really about this question, and I think we've seen kind of an evolution in family firm research regarding where to measure resilience and what that resilience means in family firm context. And I think this evolution is also reflected to this idea of going from a focus on the firm to a bigger focus on the family, you know, which is going right now in the family business research. If you think about the first really review about resilience was 2011. Chrisman and Chua, they make this review on family firms resilience, and they really talk about resilience as something that was occurring at the firm. Actually, what they talk is about these mechanisms that the family firms use to adapt to change, no? Which is the definition of resilience that they were using. And then they identify some kind of mechanisms that the family firms were using, like succession strategies, attracting managerial talent, creating family social capital, okay? All the things that that our speaker Kumar was mentioning before, no? This kind of thing that from a practitioner side, he was mentioning, they were already there at the firm level. So for many years, it's been mostly at the firm level, how the family firm was building mechanisms to overcome change and to adapt to change. But if you ask me, what do I think and what are the resilience of the family firm resides, I think it's really on the ownership. And I mean, it's the concentrated ownership of the firm that really gives the firm the capability to be resilient. So I think the resilience resides really on the family, because as he mentioned before, is this ability to have more skin on the game, is this socio-emotional wealth that we may talk later, that makes the owners of the company resilient. So I think it's really about more about how to be resilient in our organization and what is the ownership role on that. And I think we are still there. So I think there is a huge opportunity of research to really understand more how the owners build resilience in organizations.
Absolutely, Christina. So I think you touched briefly upon socio-emotional wealth, and we know that that is your forte, and that's what Christina is known for. So if you could just shed some more light on what are the specific socio-emotional wealth considerations which impact the resilience of family firms. Maybe
So
you could just unpack the SEW concept for some of our attendees here, because we have some scholars in family business also, but there are some who are just in their first year. So maybe you just briefly talk about it.
Very happy to do so. No, thank you, Tulsi. So as some of you know, I've been working in the past 25 years with this idea of the socio-emotional wealth thing. And basically what the socio-emotional wealth theory is about, it says that what makes family owners different from non-family owners is that the family owners, they have some affective stuff of value in the company and non-economic goals that they also want to get. Okay, which is as simple as that, no? This is the concept of socio-emotional wealth. So when I'm owning a company, I not only want financial returns, I also want to get some non-economic socio-emotional wealth of the family. What is socio-emotional wealth about? It is about maintaining control. So families really want to keep control of the companies. It is about maintaining family reputation. It is about ensuring long-term stakeholder relationship. It is about keeping the emotional attachment of the family, between the family and within the company. And it's also about ensuring a legacy. So again, I'm happy to see that Professor Kumar, he identified all these things in the practice side. This is what we identify in the research side, no? That all of these things are very important for families. And I think socio-emotional wealth is everything about resilience. I mean, if you think about the theory of socio-emotional wealth, what the theory says is that families are risk averse because they want to preserve some of aspects of the socio-emotional wealth. So families won't take risky decisions because they want to preserve control. They will take risky decisions. They won't take risky decisions because they want to preserve their reputation. But whenever the socio-emotional wealth is jeopardized, and this is likely to happen in a turbulent environment, the family will take infinite risk to save their legacy. And this is what socio-emotional wealth is about. It's explaining why families are risk-averse and risk-seeking at the same time. So going back to your reputational thing, I think we've seen families doing really, putting all the efforts to save a company. And we have a lot of evidence that shows that family friends behave more conservative during a steady time, but much more risky during crisis time. And this is because when they lose the company, they are not losing a bunch of assets. They are losing the entire socio-emotional wealth of the family.
Absolutely, Christina. I think that, again, is a very, very interesting insight. This preference reversal, akin kind of a theory, which talks about more risky endeavors being taken up during a crisis, which is what is completely counterintuitive. I think there is a paper by Leppäaho and Ritala also on the same. Yeah. So, Mr. Kumar, would you agree with the role of the socio-emotional wealth, which is basically the non-financial goals, being an important contributor to the resilience of family firms? As a practitioner, what do you attribute resilience of the family firms to? Is it the risk-taking or the risk-avoiding kind of a nature?
Yeah, so I completely agree. I couldn't agree more. And I speak from whatever experience I've had. As I said, I've had long associations with many families, and I've actually sat with them, alongside them, from one crisis, at least 3 crises or 2 crises per family. I mean, that kind of thing. Some black swan, some, war, supply chain, indebtedness, cash flow, government policy, regulation, demonetization, a whole host of stuff like that. I've had the fortune of being the ringside friend to them. So from that experience, what I did before this session was to talk to some of my family people, family business people. I asked them, tell me how, reflecting back on what we did, what do you think were some of the key aspects of managing resilience? So I expected them to tell me about broken business models, lack of digitization, poor gut level decisions, overreaching, financial mismanagement, and so on and so forth. And I was surprised that I didn't hear any of that.
Wow.
What I heard was teamwork, no shame, no blame culture when the resilience, adversity hits you, strong alignment and affinity amongst owners and family members, cohesion, spouses and family support. So the kind of support that spouses gave the business owners and managers was incredible. Reputation I've talked about, ahead of wealth, all for one, one for all culture, stewardship, we have to leave something better for our next generation, celebrating small wins, buying time, dousing one fire at a time, keeping the entire system informed of what is happening, accepting reality, being inclusive, a common vision and a purpose. So this is what I heard. And this is going, in most of what I say, this is going to be a central sort of keynote of what I want to share. So I completely agree. I couldn't, it's all there. And just one more quick point. We write constitutions. And we don't just write constitution, we develop the family, and constitution is one vehicle. So I picked up some, we do what is your business purpose? Why are you in business? Etc., etc. What are your family values and business values? So very quickly, a sample of purpose. Institution in perpetuity, entrepreneurial organizations, entrepreneurship, innovation, a global business that contributes to society, some ownership, create and preserve wealth, legacy, which we want to pass on to the next generation. These are all purposes. Let me look at values, trust and faith, health and well-being, celebrating differences, spirituality, adaptability, reputation, interdependence, support, mutual growth, etc. Deliver the promise, social, etc., etc. So you get a sense of, and these are all participatively arrived at when we, build and curate the constitution. So these are just some data points or some experiential points to support what Dr. Cristina is saying.
Thank you, sir. But this is very, very interesting. And what we would like to also understand from a practitioner perspective is, I think at the end of the day, if you don't measure it, you really don't know whether it exists or not. So as a practitioner with so many years of experience working with all kinds of family firms, how do you think that academics could use or even build some of these metrics to measure resilience? How would you measure resilience?
Yeah, so it's very difficult. I don't have any quantitative measures. Okay. I have only experience. But I have, again, sitting in the balcony, and this session has allowed me to do that.
Right.
So, for instance, the time taken from idea to implementation is one sort of, not a metric, but a criteria that occurs to me. What is the speed of implementation? Because crisis cannot, you can't wait and pontificate or whatever when a crisis hits you. Second, families which have written a constitution or have a sense of governance. Governance, as you know, helps separate the family hat from the business hat, from the ownership hat, and all that goes with it. Single leadership, 2 in a box, 3 in a box doesn't work. You need a single leadership, my experience, single leadership with moral, strong, structural, authority. A culture which is low on entitlement and high on enterprise. A family which has a portfolio of businesses rather than one business. The way they allocate capital to these businesses in terms of risk profiles. And most importantly, no emotional attachment to any asset. Pruning the family tree and pruning the business portfolio from time to time. These are some of the things that would, from my point of view, be some top level ways of looking at the ability or the capability to manage adversity. So I don't have any metric, but these are just some learnings I have.
Great, sir. Thank you so much. Christina, how do you think we measure resilience within the family business context? And what methodologies can we develop in order to better measure the impact of SEW on family firm resilience?
Okay, so to answer to the first question, I will go back to the general literature on resilience. And I mean, it's not easy to measure, okay? So as we know, this is a very blurred concept, and we know what it is the ability to adapt to change, but then there is also the debate is the ability to absorb change. It is a passive or an active reaction. So when we are not sure about the concept, it is very difficult also to decide how we're gonna measure the concept. So what I see as a quantitative researcher, there is a way to measure this resilience at different levels. So basically, what we do is a set of attitudes or actions that are separate from the individual that are involved in the firm. So as I said, it seems that it's a detachment on the literature between what the firm does and what the individuals do. And this is a big problem in family firms, because I don't think we can separate like that, because the imprinting of the family in the organization is really high. But if you see many of the papers on resilience of family firms, what they do is to say, okay, we're gonna take firm level measures and we're gonna see how they change. So for instance, firm size or employees or any kind of strategic actions before and after a crisis, no? And this is what they do, no? It's an indirect way to see, okay, do family firms preserve employment or not? Do family firms involve more in fixed assets during a crisis or not? No, and then if they do higher than a non-family, we identify that also as a measure of organizational resilience. Okay, and the other way to measure that is really about thinking about individual actions. No, what are the best practices that the family firms are using to overcome the resilience of the organization? So if we go to the general management literature, they try to correlate characteristics of the CEOs with strategic change. So, I mean, depending on your professional background, your education, your experience, how much you promote change or not, okay? When we go to the family firm, as Mr. Kumar was saying, there are also some studies that start to see what are the governance changes, succession planning, what is being done, especially during the COVID crisis. I mean, for those of you who are students and are maybe starting to do thesis or research on resilience, you will see that it is an explosion of papers to understand the behavior of the family firm during the COVID crisis. And we have observed several things that family firms have done to become more resilient. So probably they have, for instance, for me, I'm conducting a study with a Mexican student in which we measure the crisis, and then we measure socio-emotional wealth, and then we measure pre-crisis activities and post-crisis activities. And then we see, for instance, that the COVID, and I don't know, Mr. Kumar, if you have observed that, has speed the succession planning. Okay, so the next generation has been integrated in the company faster as a result of the crisis. And I think this is very fascinating, no? Because when talking with the next gen, many of them said, I didn't plan to join, but because of the crisis, finally I had to join. And I think this is a very interesting area for research, no? How this next generation that many people say that they are not interested in anything, that they don't care about the family business, whatever, they really care. And with a period of real crisis, they have been incorporated into the company, okay? So I think this is very interesting. Regarding the specific of socio-emotional wealth, and again, for those of you who are trying to do research, I mean, the problem with socio-emotional wealth and resilience is that we are dealing with two very difficult constructs, okay? We are not still sure about how to measure socio-emotional wealth. So measuring how to link to resilience is a huge thing, okay? So my advice will be, maybe if you are doing a survey, use the scales of socio-emotional wealth that are already validated and try to link that to some specific resilience concepts like the direct or indirect, or, and this is something that I more and more, after 25 years as a quantitative scholar, now I became a super fan of the qualitative thing. So maybe it's to go there and ask really the families, what do they mean by resilience, how they are practicing resilience, and try to come up with new construct, really to understand what resilience is for family organizations.
Yeah, Christina. So somewhere I think the human capital and the social capital that families possess are going to be very, very important in terms of just measuring and how do those, what is the impact of the crisis on the social capital? Like you said, quantitatively, you go around measuring what were the number of employees before and after or during the crisis, right? And the word crisis itself can be interpreted in multiple ways. As Mr. Kumar said, in India, we've been facing a whole set of different kinds of crises completely. Some which are more financial in nature, then there are geopolitical concerns, and of course, the Black Swan events. Right, great. But are there any specific cultural traits that are particularly beneficial or detrimental to resilience in family firms? And how do you look at context? How do you look at the institutional theory in particular in terms of resilience?
I do think, I mean, we all know how important it is to conduct, to contextualize family friend research, not only in resilience, but in anything. So I think there's been many calls in the last years about to do more research on how context affect family friend heterogeneity, family friend behavior. So of course, I think there is. So I'm doing now some qualitative and quantitative projects in, for instance, Latin America, which it seems to be a very difficult, a very different institutional environment compared to Europe, where it's the BUCA, no, the BUCA environment. It's much more prevalent. Okay, and I think, of course, there is context matters. So I'm thinking about now. There is this study of Luis Gomez Mejia in 2022. About family control and employment security in family firm. And this study, for instance, which is done international, 33 countries. So it shows that family control firm, on average, they are less reluctant to reduce their workforce compared to the non-family, okay? And this effect is much more prevalent in contexts characterized by high political risk. So I think what this research is showing us is that the resilience of the family firms sometimes is highly evident in contexts where the institutional context is weaker. Okay, and this is one of the things. So for me, this is one thing. Families sometimes serve as a substitute of institutions, no, and they are offering employee more protections where the institution cannot give that to them. The second thing that I also observe, and maybe we can discuss this later, is that in this different contexts, Latin America, or in contexts where social networks and social capital, that Tulsi you was mentioning, the resilience is also very dependent on the network of the founder or of the family. And that is very important. So whenever there is a crisis, the founder can just take the phone and talk with any politicians, whatever, and then it's easier, no? And it's very important to work with network, which I did not observe when I did research in Europe. I mean, at least not that much, no? And I also think that this is interesting, but at the same time, it's also a problem because it complicates a little bit succession. Because the founder centrality is so high that then to build resilience in the next period of the organization without that strong founder centrality, I think it would be a real problem. Okay, this is one of the examples, no? But in which I observe that culture for sure matters a lot. But of course, it's also in terms of values, the importance of reputation is going to be different in different countries. So I do think there are many, many aspects of culture that affect resilience.
Absolutely, absolutely. Mr. Kumar, what is the role of culture of innovation in building such resilience?
Yeah, so I think innovation is only getting the foot in the door. I mean, it's a threshold requirement from my point of view. There are other, I don't know whether they fit into culture per se, but there are some points I think are important. For instance, I think I'd like to take over from where Christina left. Harvesting multiple networks to create value is of great value. That is one. The founder's mentality, succession is actually institutionalizing the charisma of the founder. So I'm just not talking founder, I'm talking founder's mentality, enables ears to the ground and a frontline pulse. So this is something that comes very, very easily. One thing that family firms do is they develop what I call institutional members amongst their non-family professionals. Members who will stay even when there is blood on the street. Members who believe that organization interests come before their interests. So they have a clutch of institutional members. I'm not speaking just loyalty, but institutional members, which major source of strength to them when they get to this thing. Advisory boards, setting up advisory boards, getting external independent advisors. I think I mentioned this before. One of the major Achilles heels in managing in adversity is emotional attachment to a particular asset or a business, when you can actually divest and release cash. Reinvesting, at least in India, reinvesting all surplus in the business, not having a robust dividend policy, not creating a war chest. All of this came up in COVID. So now people have, started giving dividend legitimately to themselves and building a war chest. Spirituality. I mean, I've found that families which have a certain spiritual traditions, that spiritual strength is very important. Ego-neutral culture, very important. Spirituality and ego-neutral are two sides of the same coin. And I'd like to bring to the notice that I use something called, something that Paul Stolz has written on adversity quotient. So today I train many family members and owners on increasing their adversity quotient. There are some families who don't have a thick skin, and every small thing worries them. They spend sleepless nights. So how can they get more? How can they increase their adversity quotient? I found this to be extremely useful, and I'm, very thankful to Paul Stolz and his idea on adversity quotient. There's a survey. You can profile yourself, and a lot of coaching can help you get there. So I think these are some of the points I'd like to make, in addition to innovation as being a part of the aspect of resilience.
Sure. I think I'm going to try and wrap up with one final question, and then we open it to the audience for some more questions. So, Christina, what do you see as future research areas at the cusp of SEW and resilience among family firms? I think the latest paper was 2024 YILMAs, and all of you, you've already published something, but what future do we look at?
So, I mean, I think, as I mentioned at the beginning, that there is still a lot of room for research, which is more focused on the family as a unit of analysis and not much on the firm. So I think we now know, as Mr. Kumar was saying at the beginning, that maybe family firms are more resilient in crisis period, whatever. So this is something that empirical research has solved, but we're still missing a little bit about the mechanism. So Mr. Kumar listed them very well, no, from the practice, but from the academic point of view, I don't think we are still much clear about which are the mechanisms that family firms use to build a strong resilience. So we talk about social capital, governance, succession, but which are the exact mechanisms? I think this is still a thing. So at the organizational level, I think there is also a role to really try to understand the type of strategies that the firms are going to use to respond to resilience. So it is about innovation, it is about retrenchment, it is about preservation, it is about selling, no? How do the different family firms combine the different strategic actions that you can take to overcome a crisis time or to adapt to change? So do family firms use innovation or exiting or all of them together? I think this is also ambidexterity, also, not this explore, this is also could be a thing. And of course, we need to understand more about the role of non-economic goals. How the non-economic goals moderate all these things. So our firms which are more innovative and have strong values and goals, they became even more innovative during a crisis time, or these strong family goals make them a bit more conservative. No, I think this moderator effect are still not well understood. And I think it will be interesting to further investigate that. A second line of research that I think could be very interesting is moving beyond the firm. And I think Mr. Kumar also mentioned that, and I totally agree, is to go beyond the firm boundaries. Okay, if we're going to move to the family, we need to understand not only how the family firm is resilient, but the entire family ecosystem, no? This entrepreneurial galaxy of the family, no? It's not only about the family firm, but also the family office, the family foundation, the family private equity fund, or whatever. So how the family do the capital deployment among the different units to build resilient, I think this is something we know nothing about. And I think it will be, for me, a fascinating topic of research, no? Going beyond that and see if there is, I mean, when they try to adapt to change, do the family put all the resources in the family, or they stop reinvesting in the family and they took more to the family office? How does CSR activities are affected when there is a crisis? Do they continue for the reputation? Do they stop? Do they do more through the foundation? So I think these are questions that we don't know much about. And the third one that I'm really interested in, and I think it's also a topic to explore, is the role of next generation. So as I said, at the practitioner level and at the academic level, I observed both, no? A higher engagement of the next gen when the crisis came. So I think now that we have some time, no, after the COVID thing, it would be nice to see those next gens that really went into the family business for a commitment, probably how they're doing, if they think that was a good idea. And probably we're going to learn a lot about succession in family firms. I think analyzing transitions during resilience, I think is also an interesting topic to explore. There are many, no? But just to summarize, I think there could be three that could open new lines of research for people who are interested in these topics.
I think that's a lovely set of questions that one could work on, Christina. Personally, I think the third topic that you spoke of is something which I would be very keen to work on as well, which is the next gen and Gen Z in particular, and how their mental state might be very different from that of the founder. And how have they coped up and how would they cope up? Because the adversity quotient may or may not be that high. So absolutely great. Mr. Kumar, last words on your advice to researchers and students of family firms who are assembled here today. How can they help in building family firms, which are the most prevalent forms of organization worldwide, into more resilient organizations?
Well, I don't know about last word, but I think as a practitioner, not much attention has been given to how family business advisors can intervene. What do they do to intervene in a family system? What are the various ways in which they intervene? So this is one area of help that family advisors, I believe, are very useful, and many families are now seeking the help of advisors. So in that context, what are the kind of interventions? How do they partner with families? And how do they bring out this piece of, resilience? This is one. Mm-hmm. Second, rather than wait for the adversity, how do we prepare family firms to meet adversity? One is to look at the family in the midst of adversity and understand resilience. And the other is to prepare them, and that's could be a long haul preparation. Yeah. And I think it you need to work at the individual level, you need to work at the nuclear family level, you need to work at the community of the family. All of them, any weak link there, I'm using it in a metaphorical sense, yes, can make the resilience unstable. So if one nuclear family is despondent and two other nuclear families are gung-ho, the despondency pulls the energy down, and they get focused with that rather than the adversity. So this is the second one in terms of how do you prepare them. And the third one, again, next gen. I have had a lot of trouble with NextGen. I work with, we work there. Yeah. The sense of entitlement, because they have not created any value directly, is a big subject. So how do you build a sense of enterprise in them, however in small bits it may come, preparing them for moving away from entitlement to enterprise? I don't know whether these are research-worthy topics, but these are some concerns I have.
Sure, I think some of them would be very, very interesting to take up in terms of theoretical frameworks. And Christina, I'm sure that the people who are here listening would want to work on some of these topics as well.
Yeah, sure. I was taking notes, so very interesting.
Yeah. Yes. We have Professor Chitra Singla from IIM Ahmedabad, and she's raised her hand. So Chitra, please go ahead. If you want to share your screen.
Yeah. First of all, thank you, Tulsi, for arranging this. Wonderful to hear Mr. Prasad and Professor Christina. Professor Christina, we refer to your work all the way. And Mr. Prasad, we haven't really crossed paths, but once we had tried to reach you through Aditya from Privexus for a family business conference we were doing at IMA pre-COVID. You were busy or occupied somewhere else. I don't know if you
I'm so
remember.
sorry. I'm so sorry.
No, I'm
Yeah.
sure we will get more chances to interact with you. So my question is specifically for you, Mr. Prasad. Since you work with the Indian family businesses and their top management, and the topic of today is adversity and resilience. So I was just curious to know that do you think at the time of adversity, the family members who are involved in the board or the top management are somehow change their attitude towards the non-family members of the board and the top management and prefer to listen to their advice more often as compared to good days? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. In fact, I have a very strange answer to this. We all talk of participation involving, CEOs and others in this crisis. But two very senior family founders and senior people told me that when they reviewed the mistakes they had made, which led to the crisis, all decisions where they allowed the CEO to make the decision contributed to risk. I was completely flattened. All decisions that had come to the group holding board did not have that risk. Crisis was not contributed by decisions made by the group holding board. The crisis was contributed by delegating to CEOs who took those decisions or did not keep the group holding board involved. A very, very strange one.
Sir? Were these professional CEOs in family business
Professional CEOs.
Professional CEOs?
Professional CEOs.
Okay.
The decisions the group holding board let them, in the classical sense of management, take those decisions, and they praised each of those decisions which led up to the crisis as having been sourced there. So I don't know how to respond to this. Even now, I'm sort of taking it in, but that is one. Second, I want to say that there are two variables as far as shareholders are concerned, top management. One is alignment, and the other is affinity. Alignment into affinity is cohesion. Shareholder risk is terminal, in my experience. Business risks can be managed. So if you focus just on alignment and affinity of the few shareholders, I think you have actually crossed the first hump in terms of managing not only crisis, but also the smooth envisioning and leadership of the business. So I don't know whether I've answered your question, Chitra. Maybe I've gone beyond the remit of your question.
No. I think I got your point. But I was just curious to know that I understand they end up delegating it to professional CEOs, but professional CEOs are less to be seen. More of them are still the family CEOs, right?
No, these are not non-family CEOs. I'm talking of non-family CEOs.
Okay. But you have seen in a family business where the family CEO is there and the crisis or a big adversity happens and suddenly the non-family board members get importance that, their views matter now.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely,
Yeah.
they
Okay.
do.
Thank you.
And thank God for it, yeah.
Thank you.
It's actually kind of counterintuitive, Chitra, because I'm not sure whether there would be more close huddling of the family members rather than trying to get independent voices during a crisis. So I'm not so sure, but could be interesting.
So we did some analysis. The paper is under review, and actually we found that when there are good days, there is more cohesion in the family. When there are bad days, suddenly the outsiders become the close buddies, because then
So if I may give a quick example, very quickly, I won't take too much time.
So I would love to hear.
So there was an advisory board we set up, very, very eminent people, and the family was hurtling towards the crisis, and the advisory council said, and they were in infrastructure, okay, heavy investments. So they said, change your strategy to asset light and asset right, not asset heavy. So which meant recycling that portfolio and getting out of heavy
Absolutely.
investment.
Yes.
So this shift, had it not been for that advisory council, this entire change of direction would not have taken place, which averted a major crisis.
Thank you. And
So,
that's
Chitra, I
very-
just want to add one small point, okay? And this
Yeah.
is again anecdotal when I have been speaking to family businesses across. There is one family business in Jodhpur that I was interacting with, 78 family members staying together in Jodhpur.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And the patriarch, he was telling me, an old man, he was speaking to me and he says that during bad times, people stay together, stick together.
Yeah, correct.
And it's during good times that they kind of scatter away. So,
So
I don't know that
I would
answers.
support
I
that.
think we are
I
not
would
talking
support that.
about family as a unit. We are talking
no,
about
I know, I
people who are
understand. I
involved in the family. Yeah, but I get your
understand.
point. Yeah.
I understand. So,
I also have I'm writing a case. It's a case study, teaching case study, but I think it's super interesting also as a family that went through a huge crisis. And we interview many of the employees of the company, whatever, and they always said that we did not leave the company because the family was always there. And I mean, we saw that the family really believed that we were going to overcome the crisis. And the interesting thing is that when we interviewed the family, they were so scared. They did not trust that they were going to be able to make it, but the father told them, to the 4 siblings, okay, even if you don't believe in that, we have to go outside and tell our employees we're going to make it. Okay, so it was this combination of faith in whatever that make the family really resilient and trust in the family. So I think this is very important. And going back to your discussion, in the research we are doing with the Mexican families, what we observe is that right after the crisis, the family delegate less. So which could be linked to what you were saying, no? That they delegate maybe too much to the professionals. They realized that it was not working, and then the family decided to take the reins. So
Yeah.
the degree of delegation after the crisis was lower. So
Yeah.
family went back to control the company again after some delegation at saying, oof, this is not been working as we thought it was.
Yeah.
we have a young scholar from Delhi, Yashasvi. Yashasvi, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So since we are talking a lot about next generation, and both the members have mentioned that next gen is a way forward for the research. So I have a small question that what do you think that the role of knowledge sharing among incumbent and successor generation, and how family dynamics affect this in order to ensure the business continuity across generations?
Is that to Professor Cristina?
Well, I think
Yeah,
to
anyone
both.
can answer that.
Mr. Kumar, if you want to start, I can give.
Actually, I didn't, Yashasvi, sorry, I didn't understand the essence
Knowledge
of your
sharing,
question.
sir. Knowledge sharing between the senior and the next generation. How does that
Yes.
contribute to resilience is what she's asked.
Yeah, I'm thinking as I'm speaking right now, because I don't have a pat answer to that. Certainly, I think coaching, knowledge sharing, practically working with NextGen, these are all ways in which self-confidence increases, whether it is directly linked to resilience or even, running, managing, and building the business. It could be for both. And wherever I've noticed that the next gen shadow the senior generation and just hang around and see what they do, attend meetings and ask questions before and after the meeting, all that is very, very powerful way of acculturation, if I may call it that, beyond just knowledge sharing. So yes, it is clearly a great strength and a far more seamless transition, a transition which has a dialogue as events are occurring, as board meetings are occurring, as they're touring the factory, as they're meeting dealers, all of that. And this is nothing new. So that osmotic learning, that acculturation is immeasurably useful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
So I think I totally agree in that it is very important to share knowledge with the next generation about the company. And the more I work with NextGen MBAs, master students, and all the families I work with, sometimes I'm shocked of getting to know people that are in their 30s and they don't know anything about the family firm yet. Or they just know a few, okay? And I also wonder, what are they waiting? I mean, what is this family waiting to really tell them about how much? Now that I'm working with many family officers, I see that many families are really scared of talking to the next generation about wealth. And I think it should be the opposite. I mean, we should
Yeah.
educate the next gen about the purpose of wealth. Because the latest we do that, the more dangerous it's going to be for them to become responsible owners. So I don't think we have research about that yet, but I think it's so common sense, and I observe so much in practice that it's a definite yes. Okay, we need to share knowledge, because the only way to engage the next gen is to have a common purpose. And there is no way you're going to have a common purpose if you don't know anything, or if you just know a little about what your family business have and what your family has in terms of wealth. Okay, so I also think it should be on stages. So I understand a kid with 15 doesn't need to know everything, okay? But I mean, we do now a lot of courses and education at IE about how to educate the next generation in the concept of wealth, which I think is a very important thing.
Sure.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
think
Like the research has also briefly discussed about early involvement of next gen in businesses. So indeed.
sure. Thanks,
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you all so much. I think we've run out of time. We have our Dean, Dr. Varun Nagaraj, with us. Varun, would you like to come in for a couple of quick comments or questions? Anything from you?
No, I mean, nothing specific. I wanted to thank Step and Christina, and everybody who's attended today for participating in this valuable initiative. Nothing more than that, Tulsi. Thanks to everybody.
Thanks, Varun. And thank you all so much. I think this is the third and the final conversation series being hosted by SPJIMR. It's been indeed lovely to be involved with STEP and to be hosting the series for STEP on behalf of STEP. So thank you all so much. And we hope to catch you. Christina, we're also doing a research presentation series every 2 months. And we've had a host of people. I think the next one is going to be Jeremy. Jeremy is going to be presenting his research sometime in September, if I'm not mistaken. Jeremy, if you're there, you can just give a loud shout out. Yeah, so hope to have more people joining the research presentation series. Thank you all so much.
Thank you very much.
Tulsi.
Wonderful, sir, having you. And thanks, Christina, for everything. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you, Tulsi. Thank you, Step.
Thank you very much,
for the
everyone.
opportunity.
Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Bye.
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 Bye. Thank you all.
Bye.